Hi, welcome to Milo Talks. I'm Milo, traveling, living, working full-time with my dog Willie Nelson and my Class B van, talking to strangers along the way and just hoping that somewhere in all of this, we all will feel a little bit more connected to each other. Okay, so random. How random is random? And when is random no longer random, but actually something else? All Kirsten did was follow my Instagram feed, but I woke up that morning and investigated who my new follower was, and I mistook her for someone else. So I sent her a message, and she responded with, "Hey, I think you sent this to the wrong person." Sure enough, she was right. I had confused her with someone else, but since I had her and had her attention, we started chatting, and turns out she has a podcast, and we exchanged podcasts. And then pretty soon, we found out we had a lot more in common. But I was curious as to how she found me. And this is Kirsten, and this is her response.
I am in the process of promoting my own podcast, Byte Sized Blessings. And so I kind of, jumped into Instagram. And I think based on who I was following and just the algorithms maybe that Facebook does, it started bringing up suggestions for who I could potentially like. And so, I went through and I especially wanted to follow other podcasts because I really, really firmly believe in supporting other podcasters. It's a tough competitive world out there, and I want to lift those other podcasters up. So I found you, and then I think we started messaging on Instagram Messenger. And I've done that with other podcasters, other people as well. Just saying, hey, what's up? Congratulations, good luck with your podcast, that kind of thing. So I think that's how I found you.
So Kirsten's in New Mexico. I'm traveling, but my home base is out of Mississippi. And she is best friends with someone who lived, at the time when I was living in Mississippi, a block from me. And so she messages me again and says, "Hey, how do you know these people?" So I'm thinking, wow, that's incredible. So we have this mutual friend, and it's a really, really great human connection. So that was lovely.
The instant I saw that you two knew each other, I texted her and I said, "Okay, you're never going to believe this." And she just started laughing and laughing. And she said, "I can't believe this because I've been thinking that I have wanted to introduce you to the last few days." So
that's weird. That's great. It's amazing, but it's so weird. There are moments when the world all of a sudden seems very small. And this was one of those moments. It just seems so, again, random. But again, when it's random, not really random at all. So I actually started listening to some of Byte Sized Blessings, some of Kirsten's podcasts, and I realized she has just a slew of these stories. But this is Kirsten's personal story of how she felt the universe was shouting at her to go do something she would never have done on her own. And this story has a lot of layers, so stay with me on this.
I started dating a gentleman who was Roman Catholic, and it was the first time I'd ever really gone into that world. And so I started reading a lot of books about Roman Catholicism and mysticism and the Benedictine order and the Rule of Benedict. And so we went to this monastery for this feast day celebration up in Portland. And I had recently lost one of my best friends, had passed away the year before. And the woman sitting right next to me, looked exactly like her, wore the same jewelry. It was eerie. And at the end, she came up and she started talking to me. We had this conversation and we talked about what we were doing in the next year. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to walk the Camino de Santiago." And I had never heard of that before. And I asked my partner at the time, what is this? And he explained that it was a pilgrimage route, through Europe for pilgrims over millennia to walk to Santiago, Spain, as proof of their devotion. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so at Christmas, he got me a bunch of travel guides and travel books about the Camino. So I got to read about it. It was interesting. And so then I went along with my life in Portland, and a few months later, a good friend said, "Hey, I watched this movie. It was really amazing. I want to send it to you." So she sent it to me back when we had DVDs, and it was The Way with Martin Sheen. And it's about, Emilio Estevez, Martin Sheen, about Pilgrim's Journey on the Camino de Santiago. And it's a good movie. It's really sweet. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting. This is okay. I get an idea of what this is like. And then the week later, I was talking to my acupuncturist, and I said, I just watched this movie because the woman who sent me the video was a friend of his. And he said, oh, yeah, my mom walked the Camino. She did 600 miles, and then she broke her knee or broke her ankle. And I thought, what? Okay, another person who's had experience of this. And so I was just holding these in my mind. And then a good friend of mine at the Oregon coast, her mother had just been moving to a retirement home. So she said, I know you will talk about traveling. I was cleaning out my mom's study from decades of papers. And she said, I found this really cool pamphlet for this walk in Europe, and so I'm going to mail it to you. And I open it up, and it's from the 60s, and it's a travel guide to the Camino de Santiago in Spain. So I thought, okay, I don't know what's going on here. This is weird. I don't even know what's happening. So as I do when I have a question, I just sat down with my tarot cards because I love tarot cards. And the first card I pulled said, you've not been listening to the messages that you've been getting. And I literally sat down on my bed, looked up at the sky, like in my bedroom, and I said, you've got to be fucking kidding me. You want me to walk the Camino? First of all, I don't speak any French or any foreign languages. I don't do stuff like this. This is ridiculous. I can't leave my house. I can't leave my job. This is absurd. It's absurd. And by the way, everybody's going to think I'm crazy because I'm not religious. So I wrestled with it for a few weeks, and I talked to a few people, and then I thought, you know what? I am supposed to do this for some reason. This is the most absurd thing. It's so stupid because I have a life going on right now, and I don't understand what this is about, but I'm going to go do it. And so the minute I made that decision, I had to find someone to watch my house, to take care of my animals, everything that I had to do, every hurdle that I had to leap over to get this done, completely was facilitated. So a friend was like, oh, I'll live in your house for, 5 months and take care of everything. And, I took a ship because I was like, I need to acclimate to what's going on because this is too big in my life. So I drove across the U.S., stopped in Santa Fe, stopped in New Orleans, parked my car in Florida, had a friend drive me to the ship, got on the ship, took the ship from Miami to Barcelona, spent a week, found someone in Barcelona who was a friend of a friend that let me stay at her place for a week so I could acclimate to Europe. And then I took 3 trains to southern France where I started walking. And I walked 500 miles. I felt like I was in a movie. I mean, I had people, I was walking alone. Everybody thought I was crazy because I was a female. I chose a route that was known for its isolation and for how physically arduous it was because I wanted the solitude. And it turned out that France had the worst weather they'd had in 90 years. There was flooding. It rained the entire time. I was snowed on in June. I was hailed on. And I got to northern Spain. I was going to keep walking. It was completely just so hot there. They say not to walk at that time of year, but I was like, I'm going to go along the coast, so it'll be fine. It was not fine. I got so profoundly dehydrated that I got so sick. I just spent a week in a bed in Santander in Spain recovering because I couldn't eat. I was so sick. But the very last day of me walking, so dehydrated, so sick, it was like 28 kilometers, way more than I should have done that day. And I was crawling up the side of this cliff-like hillside with this massive pack on my back. And I literally snapped and had that moment you see in the movies where like your soul is ripped open and you howl out to the universe. And I had that because I was so sick and so just broken open in that moment that it was like everything changed for me in that moment. It was like I was broken open and I had to go through this physical journey where my spirit was tested, my soul was tested, my mental ability was tested. And I came to this point where everything that I had experienced in all my own stories, my old stories, were ripped open and some of them were washed away. And I literally spent a week in bed in Santander trying to get better, drinking tons of water. Because I did it, my entire life changed. Everything and everywhere I've been and everything that has happened in my life has all emerged from walking the Camino. And it really did feel like an appointment that I was supposed to keep. I told people that, you know, I feel like everyone, before you're born, you are given appointments that you're supposed to show up for in your life. And those appointments are very important because they are seminal moments in your life where, you know, it's like this crux where everything else in your life is going to spin off and develop from that seminal moment. And so as long as you show up for those appointments, you will live, you know, a good life, a life that is filled with hopefully love and hope and promise and friendship and good food, because I love good food, and one that's filled with joy and satisfaction. And so, you know, I, you know, after the Camino, it certainly hasn't been all, you know, roses and rainbows since then. I've had some really dark moments, some moments where I've been really angry and very resentful about all of this. But now I'm on the other side of that. And so I understand, I think, more deeply what it was all about and why it was supposed to happen. But yeah, when I walked the Camino, I had a movie version of the Camino. I mean, I had people leaning out of their windows in these small French villages, like yelling bon voyage and bon journée to me. I had a woman, this typical French woman who was so beautiful with long gray hair, stop me in the middle of the road and say, "What are you doing? Like, you're walking by yourself." And I said, "I'm walking the Camino. I'm doing this because I feel like I'm so," and she like grabbed my face with her gnarled hands and she gave me kisses on both cheeks and basically blessed me and loved me up. I had another woman at a hotel. I was the only guest. And when she found out what I was doing, she wrapped up this huge care package of food so that I wouldn't go hungry from the hotel. I mean, I was taken care of more than I can ever explain to you. And I was shown more love, more care, more affection by complete strangers in a foreign country than I've ever experienced here in the U.S. I mean, I just was surrounded by incredible caring and love the entire trip. And it was transformative.
It's a shame that we don't treat everyone like they're on a journey, right? And we're just there to give them love, support, and care packages, no matter when we meet them or where we meet them. That's so interesting. And it's interesting to me that you were nudged. You feel like the universe was nudging you to take this trip. That's something you would not have done. I'm also curious, is the person who passed away, who left you the money, the same person who passed away when you sat in that church and you thought the woman resembled her? Is that the same person?
Yes, it's absolutely the same person. Yeah.
Okay.
Which, you know, meeting her was, I had graduated from college, moved back to Chicago, tried to get a job for 6 months, finally signed up with a temp agency, got placed at this random company in Skokie, Illinois. One day, someone said to me, "Oh, one of the vice presidents wants to interview you for a job." as a permanent position in her department. And I thought, okay, I mean, cool. It'll be more job stability. And this is the first time this has ever happened to me in my life. And I still remember it. It's so visceral for me. So I approached the conference room. I opened the door. I looked at her. And I was like, oh my God, I know you. And she said she had the same feeling. She's like, there you are. And it was our friendship. It was basically, she was the mother that I had, another mother that I hadn't, or a mother in another life. It was this profound sense of recognition and knowing and comfort and already feeling like I was home. And I've experienced that with a few other people in my life, maybe 4 or 5. But every time I do, when there's this recognition, I know that person is going to be important in my life, is going to be a friend forever, or that I have some sort of work that I'm going to do with them, or there's some sort of invitation there. And so, Linda, my good friend who's passed away, we just became the best friends. We loved each other to death. I mean, I loved her so much. And she got this incredibly rare form of Parkinson's disease, where when you get it, it accelerates so quickly that you die within 5 years. And so she had moved to Florida by this time because she had retired. And so in 2010, she was having this experimental deep brain surgery in Gainesville. So I quit my job in 2010 in Portland, and I drove to Florida to be with her for those 2 months while she had that surgery, because it was a 2-month process. And it was kind of her last hope, because her Parkinson's was so aggressive and devastating. And so that moment also felt like an appointment that I was supposed to keep. So when, in 2009, when I started feeling like you've got to go be with her, I thought, I cannot quit my job. That's crazy. I own a house. How am I going to pay my mortgage? This is insane. I did. I quit my job. I moved to Florida to be with her, and her house, I will never, never, never take back those 2 months with her, because she couldn't eat. She couldn't walk. She was a skeleton. And the first time I saw her, the night before her first surgery, I had to leave the room and cry because she was so emaciated. I spent 2 months with 5 nurses in her house who rotated in and out, doing everything. I did laundry. I fed her. I took care of her. I was with her, and I'd wake up in the morning and we'd lay in bed and watch the news, and she'd croon over Bill Clinton because she thought he was just dreamy. And those 2 months of my life were the most magical, powerful, beautiful months. I will never take them back. They were also the most difficult and painful for me. And then she died about a year later. So when I say she's like a best friend, and I feel, I dropped everything to be with her and help her. And then, while I was there, she said, I just want to let you know, I left you a little bit of money, but it's not much. So I want you to know that. And so I thought, okay, I actually don't care. I would actually like you to get better. And so when she passed away and I finally got the inheritance, it was enough for me to do the Camino in a way that was really generous and lovely.
So bottom line is, what you're saying is you believe in signs.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
You're just saying we just have to pay attention.
Oh yeah.
And if you're not paying attention, they're going to keep knocking, because you got knocked a few times. You pointed at least to 3 pointers where it was telling you about this trail. I think the strangest one was the one you got in the mail from the 1960s brochure. That was crazy.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was, and I think in one of my interviews for my podcast, Byte Sized Blessings, I talk about that with one of the guests, with our smartphones, our tablets, our attention constantly being diverted by technology and what's happening online. I feel it's even more difficult to be open and aware and just cognizant of the signs that are showing up in your life. You really have to be a little bit, technology free is my feeling, because some of them are very subtle.
I will share this one thing with you. I used to listen to TED Talks often. I still do from time to time. But I don't always have cell service, or I don't want to use my data for something like that. So your world changes when you're counting your data, how much data you're using in a month. But one of the TED Talks was about frequency, and that every person, every object, everything, like you were saying, everything on this planet gives off a frequency. Every living thing gives off a frequency. Yeah. And so when you are around someone who is resonating at a certain frequency that is attractive to your frequency, you can feel it. You don't have to make sense of it. Mm-hmm. You just know, but also be aware of your own frequency. What frequency are you giving off? So I was delighted by that, because it took me having to explain why there are some things I just don't want to be around, or some events or things I don't want to be affiliated with or spend a lot of time with, because I could base it on that it was just not the right frequency for me. Like the music I listen to, I don't want to listen to jazz. It's not my frequency, but I'll listen to, oddly enough, folk music, because a banjo and a mandolin just seem to be the right frequency for me. But that, again, is my frequency choice. And so I love to view the world as a frequency, and that I'm just dialing in to the right sound of the universe for me. Mm-hmm. So anyway, a little food for thought. But thank you so much for taking my call today and sharing your story. That is an amazing journey you took. And I'm going to actually have to go Google it now, because I'd never heard of it. And no, I won't be doing it. This is not a sign for someone to say, you need to go do this trail. No, it's not. I'm going to put that out there right now. I will not be walking this trail for 500 miles or whatever.
So I'm not sure why someone like Kirsten can be so in tuned with signs or get so many messages from the universe, and why someone like me doesn't seem to, or maybe I'm just not paying attention because maybe my frequency is not turned into the universe. But I love what she said in this next section.
I just graduated from seminary, and I'm a panentheist, which means I basically believe that God or the universe or magic, however you choose to describe that, that energy, is in every single thing that you can see, whether it's that book, or it's a prayer that you utter to your God, or it's a conversation with a good friend. And so one of the things that's really pained me lately is how divisive and acrimonious politics and our communication with others has gotten in this country. And I really wanted to do something to let people know that we're kind of all the same, and that universe or God, or however you describe that energy, it has our back, and it's looking out for us, and it has our best interests, and that you're never alone. Because truly, I've talked to so many people, and they talk about feeling so isolated and feeling so lonely and separated. And I wanted to remind people that, that might be what we're feeling right now, but truly in the grander scheme of things, that, the universe does have our back.
Note to self. I hope Kirsten's right. I hope that the universe is looking out for us and has our best interest at heart. It's hard for me to honestly imagine, though, because I just had friends that have gone through hurricanes, and there are people in the Philippines that have gone through a monstrous hurricane. There are fires and politics and anger and shootings, and the world seems like it's on fire sometimes. So I guess I would rather be hopeful than feel hopeless. So I will focus on that. And I will hope that my hopefulness will roll over and on to some of you. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Milo Talks. You can find me on social medias at Next Exit Milo. Follow me there on Instagram and Facebook.